Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and today I am going to be breaking down something very interesting. Lib Learn, which is a liberal podcast that I and others have accused of being a useful gateway to the far left, decided to lean into the memes. Now, I've explained why I think it's funny, but also why it pisses me off. We're going to go ahead and get into that because it's Econo Boy, the libertarian democratic socialist, did something very interesting in response to the criticism. Let me show you. He LARPed by changing all his background flags to the Soviet Union, Cuba, North Korea, and he dressed up as Fidel Castro. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say in response to the criticism.
Fucking listen.
I don't know what's
what the fuck?
so controversial about me turning my camera on every week.
We didn't listen.
Oh,
These fucking guys. What the fuck?
We're about to do
Holy
a fucking
shit.
Cultural revolution.
Oh my god.
Actual Marxist.
Oh, sorry guys. My bad. That's really
Holy shit.
Move the peasants to the
What?
farm.
What the fuck is going on?
All right, well,
He's got the full getup.
Econo Boy, Econo
No
Boy
way.
here.
We are moving.
Okay. So breaking down the drama as if Space Alien, which was watching this program and just learned the English language. Josiah is a liberal, but also a progressive, and he has achieved a healthy chunk of success by effectively breaking down news from a democratic perspective every single day. Hutch is a famous, semi-famous Call of Duty streamer who became a political pundit in the past 5 to 10 years, and he's done a good job as a political streamer. Pisco is a lawyer who worked for a very prestigious law firm, but then decided that he actually wanted to do political commentary after grinding it out for a few years. And so he's moved into full-time content streaming. I would actually say that he's probably in a similar position to I am, where we're streaming full-time and we're paying bills, but we're probably not very comfortable. But he obviously has the talent to be a streamer. So if he chooses to quit early because there's some discouraging signs, then he'll go back to being a normie. Whereas if he continues to press forward, he will likely be successful in streaming. Those are the four characters. And then Econo Boy is a democratic socialist, meaning that he believes that the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production via the state, he wants the state to start buying majority stocks in the economy in order to publicly own the economy as massively as possible. We accused specifically Econo Boy, a democratic socialist, and Pisco, a liberal and progressive, of being useful idiots for far left authoritarian socialists. In response, Econo Boy showed up with a Cuban flag, a North Korean flag, and a Soviet Union flag. Real quick before we move on, Cuba is not particularly offensive to me, but I think it bears pointing out, okay? Cuba had a socialist revolution. Che Guevara did execute, enemies of the revolution and gay people. And he's a fucking asshole and deserves to go down in history as an asshole, not a hero. Then Fidel Castro, while being a sane person or relatively sane, he got nukes from the Soviet Union. And Che Guevara, if I remember the story correctly, and he had conversations about how they wanted to nuke the United States now because it was the heart of the capitalist empire. And that would actually accelerate Soviet revolution worldwide. So we have a country that almost nuked the United States and had the capacity to do so via the Soviets. We have the Soviet Union that starved tens of millions of people to death through the Holodomor famine and specifically ethnically cleansed Ukraine. So Ukrainian Anna's pretty fucking pissed about that. And then we have North Korea, a state that, to be fair, we did bomb the shit out of. We actually killed 25% of their population via an aerial campaign. So that's kind of on us, that's kind of a war crime, whoops, but it was the 1950s, right? But currently holds tens of millions of people, in my opinion, in slavery. So we have a slave state. We have a country that almost nuked the United States, regimes in history comparable to Nazi Germany. And we have Econo Boy, the democratic socialist dressed as Castro. Now, I get this is a joke, but can you understand why, if I think this problem is serious, how I might view this as repulsive? Can you see how Ukrainian Anna might see this as repulsive? Anyways, let's see what they have to say.
To a centrally planned podcast.
That's
No
the funniest
way.
shit.
Just got a phone call real quick. Yeah. New ringtone.
What's going on, man?
We did have a debate this past week. Do we want to start with that?
I don't even know where to. You know
I
what
do.
we haven't talked about enough? The
I do.
Vanguard interview from 3 weeks ago. I feel like that one.
true.
Yeah.
Let's run it back. All right, guys, we'll run it back.
I've been accused of being a tanky supporter, and I don't know why. There's nothing that I've ever said or done. Same thing with Pisco that would indicate that I'm a supporter of tankies. And I hope that the debate that we had with Destiny and those guys really cleared things up.
Yeah.
Bass and Bulba said, Sitch and Adam glazed you, lol. Well, the one thing that I need from Adam before we start collaborating again is I just need Adam to admit that, like, he doesn't even have to agree that it's going to happen, but he just needs to say, I hear that the Lancet projects that the Trump administration cutting 0.16% of the federal budget is projected to kill 14 million people over the next 5 years, and I think that's bad. Then we can be friends again. Kaijutopia says, good morning, Connor. I'm a stop motion artist. It's what I mainly do for my channel. I think of doing a Godzilla Warhammer 40K project. Any tips or suggestions? Yeah, get Titans. So a kaiju, obviously Godzilla is a massive creature. Joy Toy is currently building different models. You could also probably 3D print models depending on the scale that you are going to work at. So I would 3D print an Emperor class Titan versus Godzilla. Now, I haven't given these folks enough time to talk yet, so let's see if they say anything substantive.
The way I describe Econo Boy's recent coming out as a socialist would be like a boomer parent who's still kind of like vaguely queer phobic, but still wants to support their son, you know?
So
it's
this
like,
is you.
I don't understand it. I don't know if I agree
But
with
I
it,
love
but
you,
I will
and I support you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly like
That's
that.
right.
Well, because
What
you
do
don't
I
want to be
wear
sent
to
to
the
the
gay
gulag.
wedding?
Well, that's precisely you're doing
Oh,
it
the
because
gulag,
you don't
yeah.
want to be shipped to the gulag once he eventually seizes the means of production and overthrows the bourgeoisie.
Again, I don't like tankies. Okay, I'm not a big fan of tankies. Okay,
Aren't you sick?
LB says, how does a crypto fascist dress? Hugo Boss. They would wear Hugo Boss.
Sitting in the turret of a tank as we speak?
No. This outfit. You look. It's cold in this room, so I needed to wear a jacket, and my wife
What about
bought
the
me
hat,
this
though?
hat.
The hat. Oh, the hat.
The hat.
Is for the wife.
My wife bought it for me, and this shirt. I mean, I just found it at some sort of
Oh,
a.
we didn't even say
you know,
to see the Che Guevara
Oh,
down there.
wait, I didn't see Che. Wait, show everybody Che.
I don't know who this. I just found this at a thrift shop.
Oh,
I don't know who
shit.
this actually is.
You like going
on
thrifting?
the. I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're not pro LGBT anymore? Is that what the
Yeah,
flags
yeah.
represent?
I was gonna say.
No. I still have I always have flags in my background. You know, sometimes I want to switch it. It's been a long time I've had the same flags, and these were just, again, I went to the thrift shop, and I don't know what these flags represent.
You should have
Thrift
also
shop?
bought. You should have. Tell me you have it as a prop. Mao's little book. Please tell me he's reaching.
No, I don't know. I don't know who Mao is.
What you're talking about?
Hang on one second.
I saw you reach for
Holy
something. I thought for
shit.
sure you had it.
No.
The chairman.
I've updated your title
I'll take it.
to the chair.
The only socialist books I have in reach are the G.A. Cohen book, Why Not Socialism?
There you go.
And then this Matt McManus book. I'm going to be talking to Matt right after this show about
are you?
liberal socialism. That's right. So it'll be a fun time. So what was the big news this week? So yeah, we had our debate. That was fun. I think I won the debate personally.
We should unpack that a little bit.
I won the debate.
Really?
Guys. You know, it
Oh,
was
we don't
an
have
easy
to.
dub.
No, we can.
And we should. Christian Blair says, Econo Boy is a legit effing idiot. Not only did he name a politician who was a social democrat, not a socialist, that dude was criticized by the Central Committee for advocating against Stalinism. Well, so here's the problem. Okay, I'm going to show you a problem that I have, and I don't know what to do with it. There's a book by Robert Heinlein that's about polycules. I'm not kidding. It's about having sex with multiple people at the same time. I think it's called like The Man from Mars or some shit like that. And it's about some human who was raised by Martians, and they just have different ways of doing things. And so the Martians live in polycules. They don't understand sexual jealousy. They're total freaks. Honestly, I think Robert Heinlein was just trying to get laid. And then the other part of the book is that they grok. That's actually where the grok AI probably comes from. And so grokking is where you think about something until you can no longer think about it because you've analyzed it from all angles. And the truth is, like, sometimes your brain can feel like it's digesting a relatively complex concept, or that it's it's incorporating a new vision of the world. And that's how I feel about some concepts, but this is how I feel about the socialist definition that I got. So I did, during our debate, I used a pretty narrow definition of socialism that is 100% incorporated in socialism. And if you don't agree with this definition, then most Marxist socialists would not view you as truly socialist. And that is the decommodification of basic human needs, modification of basic human needs, and workers owning the means of production. Okay. And I had this guy named Swoletariat. He's a socialist who lifts weights. And he said, okay, well, that's a symptom of socialism, but that's not what socialism is definitionally. And then I was like, what is it? And he's like, watch this 2-hour podcast, because leftists can't explain anything in more, in shorter than a 2-hour podcast. So I listened to the podcast. And the podcast, and then the socialism. So apparently, Marx and Engels use socialism and communism interchangeably, but the end goal is communism, which is all property held in common, often defined as a moneyless, stateless, classless society. So I'll hold on 1 second. This is actually important. It's actually very important. And then I'm going to go ahead and label this box. This box, come on, man, help me out. Marxism. So all Marxists think that any other kind of socialist is not a socialist, right? They would, because they're socialists. And there's nothing socialists do better than killing other slightly different flavored socialists. However, when I was watching the podcast, the 2-hour podcast, because apparently you need 2 hours to explain socialist history, effectively what the guys explained is that socialism is an idea that predates Marx by a substantive degree, like almost like a full century. And all the socialists believed, there were like capitalist socialists. There were bourgeois socialists, people who owned factories and stuff. And the reason why they believed in socialism was because they thought there were contradictions within the capitalist structure that created social unrest that would ultimately result in violence. And so they were trying to alleviate the suffering and oppression inherent in the free market system. And so socialism, in my opinion, could be viewed as, because there was a whole bunch of attempts at socialism that had nothing to do with Marx. They predated Marx, and they postdated Marx, and they were contemporary to Marx. So what these socialists wanted to do was emancipate, meaning to make free. Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm using emancipate correctly. Emancipate definition: set free, especially from legal, social, or political restrictions. Yeah. Emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. Let's spell oppressions correct. And so this is there's like a problem here, right? And the problem here is Marxism, in my opinion, this is what most people mean when we're talking about socialism, or at least most people who have read anything. Decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production. But socialism, emancipating the working class from the oppressions of capitalism, you could argue that social democracy does this, right? You could argue that maintaining the capitalist system, but making sure that everybody has access, you don't have to decommodify it, but they have access to cheap food, cheap water, cheap housing, and that they also like have access to healthcare and they can live good, dignified lives and they're happy and all that kind of stuff. You could argue that that is a conception that is rooted in socialism, because socialism is the attempt to emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. So that's where I get frustrated, because it seems like Econo Boy and other people, they use this this social democracy, the attempt to emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism via capitalism. They use that interchangeably with Marxist conceptions. So that's my frustration, is when you pin them down on this, they jump to this. When you say that this is like vague and nebulous and doesn't exchange a lot of policy, they jump back to this. And then you try to pin them down on this, and then they jump back to this. And so it's actually like really fucking frustrating way to have a conversation in an ideology, but I haven't grokked this fully. I haven't integrated this into my worldview. I don't know what to do about this.
Okay, here's the thing. You guys can recap this, but I swear to God, we are not spending the whole time on it, because we've had DOJ indictments, BLS shit, Texas Democrats. But yeah, let's go ahead and clear it out of the way.
I mean,
we had a debate.
How do you guys feel about it?
I think
I won.
I think Econo Boy won. So I think where we're at is there's no clear prescription in terms of what people are expecting vis-a-vis communists. I had like a number.
Fuck you, Pisco. And by the way, I'm still friendly with Pisco. I've said this multiple times. As a matter of fact, let's just pull up the fucking painting. Find out if somebody is a fucking Marxist, and whether or not they're a social democrat or a Marxist, and whether or not they're a Scandinavian or if they're a Marxist, and call them out on their bullshit. That's my prescription. You can go on podcasts with them. You can talk to them. Hell, you can even be friends with them. I don't give a shit. Like I said, I'm friends with a fucking Nazi. But you better believe that if my fucking Nazi friend comes on here and we start talking about how the Jews run the world, I'm going to have some goddamn pushback about the Jews running the world. Same thing where if he's like, actually, the black skull shape is like this, and realistically, they all have the warrior gene, and so they're just incompatible with modern society, I'm not going to let him say that shit unchallenged. I've already given you this prescription half a dozen times. You're acting like my prescription doesn't exist. Please don't say this. If you say this, it's going to piss me off.
Number of like people, like over the weekend, we were playing some games in my Discord, and the prescriptions ranged from, okay, definitely we want you to work with Hassan and people like Mike from PA, but only to spread your message, and you need to be a little meaner, to no, you should cancel the whole podcast. And so I come away.
Who said cancel the whole podcast, bro? I would like to talk to that person, because I think that person's stupid.
Away from that there is no clear prescription in terms of what was done wrong with respect to the Vanguard situation, and and no clear rules of the road going forward in terms of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. It seems like we're allowed to synergistically work with tankies for the purpose of getting, turning out the vote for Democrats. And so I'm pretty much of the opinion that that's where we stand. No rules, no prescriptions, just a bunch of
bullshit, and fuck you. I've already said the same prescription half a dozen times. Don't ignore my prescription. Don't ignore it. Just Carpet says, how's the progress on the back end for you and Valor? For me, realistically, for the back end, they're handling the back end, man. I've said my suggestions half a dozen times. They've incorporated some of them. They haven't incorporated other ones. But the good news is that I, personally, am a relatively profitable wing of the channel. And so as a result, I've been extended through December. And then basically I was told, now bear in mind, things can change. I have no idea what their business model is going to be like. But if I earn my keep on the channel, then I could do this in perpetuity. So obviously, this is media. So things can change. People can cancel contracts, all that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, I am extended through December. And as long as I earn more than I cost, then I'm going to be able to do this in perpetuity. So that's pretty exciting for me.
To feelings.
Yeah. My sense of the debate was that I definitely won personally. I proved definitively that Connor didn't know anything about history, which was a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, that's just incorrect. So sorry, Microsoft Paint time again. Paint time. Paint. Let's see if he says anything else substantive before I start painting.
I was talking to somebody. I said something like Connor had a really optimal mixture of confidence and lack of knowledge, and it's always fun to debate someone like that. No offense to Connor, he was just
offense taken and fuck you.
a little bit out of his depth. Okay, when you're talking to me, all right.
No offense to Connor, he's just fucking stupid. Doesn't know what he's talking about.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah, somebody else said it and you quoted them, and you're wrong.
Translating for you.
But no. Okay, so I thought it was a pretty fun conversation.
It was fun, and while I'm still annoyed at Econo Boy and his commie LARPing, let's face it, getting into the weeds on topics actually is fun, and Pisco is a good debater, and so is Econo Boy, even if it was, even if the audience wasn't receptive to their lines of argumentation.
I guess this conversation has inspired, at least for me personally, several subsequent conversations. I'm having one with Matt McManus later today about liberal socialism. That's not really a debate. Adam and Sitch reacted to the debate. I was just told that they were misrepresenting me.
Wait,
which,
Adam and
you know-
Sitch?
Wait, who?
Wait, who? Adam and Sitch misrepresent?
Adam and
It's
Sitch, the
Sitch
guys.
and Adam, just to be
I'm
clear.
I'm sorry. I'm
it's
sorry.
Sitch and Adam.
I was
I
going
haven't heard that name
alphabetical
in a long
order.
time. Those guys aren't relevant anymore. Did you forget about that, Econo Boy? You don't have to worry about what they say.
They get 1,200 live, and I'm pretty sure their post-recorded stuff gets like 30,000, 50,000 views. They're not blowing up by any means. I don't think that they've grown, but they have a reliably strong fan base. And by the way, 1K live is respectable. I don't give a shit who you are. If you think keeping and entertaining 1,000 people concurrently is easy, you've never done the grind. Spooky Saga says, what's even more funny is when they are past the laughter and someone random comes across the stream and they're talking seriously about politics. Yeah, well. LB says, yeah, they're called sovereign wealth funds, a very common thing. Okay, then LB, let's go ahead and use the socialist trap. Are you here where you're just genuinely trying to emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism and sometimes by capitalist means? Or are you here where you want to decommodify the basic human needs and workers owning the means of production? Because if you're here, this is like a policy position that we can discuss what policies are good and bad. But if you're here, then I think you're a cancer on modern society. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you like sweep for Hassan Piker and you try to jump back and forth between those two definitions does frustrate me, just being real.
Damn.
I don't know. They were streaming to a decent clip of people. I don't know. I was told they were misrepresenting my views, so I said, "Hey guys, what's going on? Let me talk to you." So that's happening on Tuesday.
Nice.
No, I escaped the great purge of Adam and Sitch's Twitter. Personally, they never blocked me because I was never mean to them, like you guys were.
Can you stop using Stalinist terms every chance you
Something
get?
of a cultural revolution on the Adam and Sitch show. But anyway, so I'll be talking to them on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, Ryan Malal.
Old school. You're such a fucking F slur, dude. You got that 14 million dead bullshit stat from the Lancet which published a paper and pushed the vaccine autism paper. Yeah, I got it right here. Go read it. You understand that if they're off by 90%, that's still 1.5 million people dead from preventable disease, right? You understand that, right? Like 1.5 million people killed so we can save 0.16% of the fucking budget. So yeah, so go. We'll see in 5 years. Okay, so by the end of the Trump admin, because you're such a twat about it, you're such a miserable twat. I want to say a worse word, but I'm trying to. This is a family show, right? So the Lancet says more than 14 million people could be killed. All right. So how about we just come back in 4 years, right? Why don't we come back at the end of the Trump admin? And we just look at excess mortality caused by USAID, right? Why don't we just wait for the stats? Because you guys already did it, right? You already did the really, really, really stupid thing of saving 0.16% of the budget just so you could spend it on more more toys in the military. So you're going to kill a few million people because we already don't have enough toys in the military. And by the way, I love toys in the military. Let's just come back in 4 years because you already fucked up. You already did the dumbass fucking policy. So let's just look at the stats in a few years. How about that? Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I almost called him Ryan McCulkey. Ryan Mullally called me evil.
Ryan Macaulay Culkin.
Right. Mullally's a unique last name. I don't know if I've ever heard it before.
I always fuck it up and I put McNally. And Peace goes like, who the fuck are you talking about every time?
So so I'll be he called me evil on Twitter, and so I'll be talking to him about the evils of socialism, I guess, on Wednesday. I'm sure that'll be a great discussion. Then we've got Destiny. He wanted to have a one-on-one.
Gentleman Damon says, Connor, just join the Dems. Together we can pull them to the right. Yeah, sure. How about you guys shut the fuck up about guns? Sorry for being rude. I know this is a family show. Take a look at this. Listen, and I'm not trying to be too mean, but if you go on to Valor Media Network right now, which is actually my employer, so like I want them to do well. But if you go here and you go to the short segment, this one is about like banning guns. Although I need to take a look at it because I haven't watched the whole show. And then, but it's talking about gun control. And then, no offense to Danny and Bobby, I would love to debate them because these guys are incredibly sharp. The Geedunk show, like, you cannot be sleeping on these guys. Like, I understand that these shows don't get that many views because let's face it, they're probably Gen X. They're older millennials like me, and they're talking about the good old days when it comes to military, and they're talking about like sports and stuff. So I understand like the content is all over this place. These guys are sharp. You can't show, just because the views aren't popping off doesn't mean they're not sharp. But they had some guest on, where's Geedunk, where they were talking about like gun control, and I think it was a governor. I don't know. Okay, so that's the sports show. But the point is that there's one episode in here that's specifically about a representative from a state that voted for gun control, and they all agreed with each other, and they used the term weapons of war, and effectively, let's just say, I can say it politely, let's just say that I viciously disagree, like aggressively disagree. So anyways, no. How about the Democrats stop being cringe about guns? How about you stop pandering to the least common denominator of the stupidest amongst you? How about you fight the progressives on all the shit that they get wrong that's stupid? And how about you purge the communists? And then I'll think about it. All right?
One about, I guess, socialism with me. And so I'll be talking to him on Thursday. I figure that'll get a lot of views. I'm going to try and do a charity stream on my end, I guess, that night. So that'll be on Thursday. And then on Friday, I've got another stream planned with a smaller creator. So busy week for Econo Boy.
Everything's looking great for Econo Boy. He's got a lightning rod of attention. All the metrics are going up. Good for him.
Well, and I had to put together this outfit, obviously, which was
congratulations. Okay, put together. You literally just walked into your closet and grabbed the first thing off the fucking hanger. Let's just be real about this. Okay? Number one. Number two, I think it's good that you're kind of like engaging in, Aikido, redirecting the energy of this into.
Yeah, sorry, Josiah. This is that feels very sweepy. But Spooky Saga says, I'm from the UK, and the Attlee Labour government was pretty much a social democratic party. Many claim themselves to be socialists. The furthest thing they did was nationalization of some industries. Right. But was that because they so this is the problem. Emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. Well, when you work in a majority capitalist society, sometimes all you're going to be able to do is make public transport cheap and make universal health care a thing, right? So that would be part of the emancipating the working class from the oppressions of capitalism, right? But you're still in a capitalist system, so that's all you can do in the meantime. However, my question is, does Attlee and members of the party who call themselves socialist, are they this? Do they want to decommodify basic human needs, have workers own the means of production? Do they want to prohibit private property? That kind of thing. And if they do, then I would say that they're Marxists. And I do, like, in the future, I'm going to differentiate, because I think that I can play their semantic game and track them down. But let me go ahead and tell you something that pisses me off. So I don't think Commie Boy, let's talk about historical knowledge real quick. Another quick drawing. Historical knowledge of socialism. So what Econo Boy said, and let's go ahead and divide it up into the West and the East, okay? What Econo Boy said is that I actually don't have a strong knowledge of Western socialist movements. And I think he's right. I think he's right, by the way. But I have a pretty strong knowledge, even before the conversation. I had a pretty strong knowledge of what I would say is Marxist views on socialism as a stepping stone to communism. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and start a step earlier. State capitalism, socialism, Marxist views and communism. I would say that I had a pretty good overview of Maoist China, pre-Maoist China, and Maoist China. I would say that I had a pretty good view of pre-Soviet Russia. Now, I actually don't know a lot about the Soviet Revolution, but maybe that's like the next thing that I need to autistically study. But I'm pretty familiar with the early and middle Soviet Union. I'm pretty familiar with Cuba. I'm pretty familiar with Cambodia. I'm pretty familiar with the Vietnam War. I'm pretty familiar with Henry Kissinger and Kissinger's policy of the domino theory. I'm pretty familiar with modern state capitalist China. So, anyways, the point is that I can keep going on, and I'm trying to think of other things. The collapse of the Soviet Union, peer military technologies, modern Russian communist simping, Ukraine as a jewel of communism, well, of the Soviet Union, I guess. Like, I could go on and on about all these topics. I could actually give you 10-page thesis papers. What he accused me of not knowing, which is correct, he's just correct on this, is socialists in the Western world who pushed social democratic policies. This is what he accused me of being ignorant on. And he's kind of right. He's kind of right. I agree with this assessment. However, this is not particularly alarming to me, because these people have been restrained by the monarchy. They've been restrained by law enforcement. They've been restrained by the military. They've been restrained by democracy. They've been restrained by the republics in which they inhabited. And so we can have, if you're a socialist, going back to my other drawing, who wants to emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism, and you want to propose various policies, we can fight about policies. I don't give a shit. A Nazi could come up with a good policy, and I will discuss the merits of a policy that a Nazi proposes. However, if you're a fucking revolutionary who wants this bullshit, you can go fuck yourself. Right? Do we understand this? I hope we understand this, because this is actually becoming fairly clear to me. And the more that these people like roll around in the mud, I don't think I'm muddying the waters at all. I think I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. I feel like they're muddying the waters.
Do something productive for your streaming career. Good for you.
That's right. That's right.
Wait, what are you debating with McNally? Or Mullally?
God damn it, Josiah. You did that on purpose. No, he did that on purpose, guys.
No, I did not.
No, so Mullally, he believes that socialism is evil. Now, of course, he's a centrist. He wouldn't say what Trump is doing is bad. He would just kind of,
except for he does.
oh, I don't know about that. But obviously, socialism
deserved to lose.
Right.
I don't
Now,
say that I would vote for Trump, but they deserve.
Obviously,
to lose.
look, he's got to play the middle, guys. Okay, is Trump bad? Good. I disagree with a lot and this and that. But if you call yourself a socialist, you are evil. Period, according to Ryan. So there's no ambiguity there.
So you're evil,
forward.
but he's holding out judgment on Trump and what he's doing.
He is. That is correct, Pisco. And so we're going to unpack that on Wednesday. And I might break out this background and outfit just for that very conversation again. This isn't retired, this show. We'll see if I break it out again in the future.
I think it's the start of something new. I wouldn't.
It sure is. That's right.
It's going to be the Lib and Learn costume. I should say after you get done with Ryan, then I think it's Hutch. I think Hutch is the last man standing as far as somebody who is not on this panel had a conversation with Ryan. I told him today because he was in my replies. I'm like, after all the conversations I've had with you and the conversations that I've seen you have with Pisco, and then listening to the one he had the other day with Destiny, I'm like, my personal affection with bantering for you or for bantering with you notwithstanding, no, it's still there, but like you're a lost cause as far as I'm concerned. Like there is no.
I think it's a bit of a lost cause.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this person. So
yeah. I mean, his logic, I saw part of that conversation. His logic was like, yeah, Trump is bad, but like Kamala was going to do DEI. Like that was basically his.
True based. Did you want a annoying California wine mom, or did you want 14 million people dead from the end of USAID? Pick one.
And I don't. That's not an uncharitable interpretation of what he said, by the way.
It's like the Rogan position, I guess, or I don't know. Rogan's working his way up to that position, I think.
Yeah,
that's
Rogan,
right. Yeah.
Rogan is slowly de-radicalizing. Yeah, so he'll say stuff like, okay, I admit it, Trump is worse on free speech, and Trump is corrupt, and Trump is authoritarian, but, the Biden administration.
He said, so I saw a quote for him that was basically word for word what you're saying.
Yeah.
And where he went with it was, but look at what Kamala was going to do with like Twitter. It was like implying that she was going to do some mass censorship.
Again, these guys, look, I'm sorry. These guys, I feel like, again, when Vance is running for president or Don Jr., whoever it is that's coming back from Trump, we have to maintain this through line throughout. We cannot let them get away with it. Because in 3 years, when we're on the back end of Trump's presidency and he's done exponentially crazier shit up to that point, you're going to have people like Rogan and people like Mullally and all these other people that are like, look, I was saying Trump was bad the whole time. And oh my goodness, like I was one of the new ones. No, fuck that. Same thing with all these Republican politicians that are like, no, I'm endorsing Vance. Like you'll probably see people out of the woodwork ready to endorse the Republican nominee just because he's not Trump. That's bullshit. We can't let these guys get away with their open support for this completely insane, like,
to be fair to
regime.
Ryan,
This would be a good point if you weren't LARPing as a socialist. Like, I almost think that like a green screen would have been better, where he could have done the bit, and then he could have changed back to, he could have used a green screen, then he could have changed back to his normal shit, then he could have taken off the hat and kept the Che Guevara shirt and the jacket, because nobody would notice that necessarily. Some people just think that's a good aesthetic. However, when I had people saying like, we can't let the far right get away with their bullshit where they simped for the Trump regime and then they pretend to be moderates and normal and actual critics of the regime in 3 years. Number one, I'm just telling you that's going to happen. There's going to be a total sanitization of the Trump regime by people as they shift back center, as Trump leaves and there isn't a clear successor. That's just going to happen. And then number two, maybe wear a different outfit while making these points. Gentleman Damon says, Econo Boy is an example of a socialist that supports the Dems. It's okay for him to use the label. I would like to see more socialists like Econo Boy, less like Hamasanabi. Yeah, but that's my problem, though. So LB brought this up, too. He's like, oh, well, Econo Boy isn't a tanky, so why do you care? Well, number one, I think he's a useful idiot for tankies, as demonstrated through this aesthetic. But also, number two, he wants to achieve what like, he does want. I'm just going to bring up my drawing again. This could technically, I'm going to throw this out here. This could technically include, as a matter of fact, I need to move it to like the border. This could technically include Scandinavian model. I think that this could actually include it within the broad definition. And then what's the other one? Like social democracy? Let's do social democracy. I'm literally going to move this to like where it's on the border. And you guys get it. I don't think I need to draw it anymore. But the Scandinavian model and socialism, I think it's up to you on the perspective, because these words are very flexible and kind of vague on whether or not you believe social democracy or the Scandinavian model emancipate the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. That's up to you. So no, I don't want more Econo Boys, because I think they muddle the terms between these two or three concepts. Briss Bedick says, I think this is all extremely silly because you're working at broad umbrella labels being defined when voters across the spectrum will not perfectly fit such pictures. I don't give a shit. Like Bryce Bedick, you think I fucking give it? Imagine if we just gave up trying to accurately define fascism, because Christian nationalism, fascists, white supremacists, ethno-nationalists, and the dissident right were this weird agglomeration of far-right ideas, and that most voters wouldn't identify as the tribal group, even though they were yanking on the Overton window. Why the fuck would that be part of our calculus? That seems like a very, Bryce Bedick, no offense, but that seems like a pretty silly analysis to me.
He didn't vote for Trump. He said Trump was disqualified because of the fake electors plot in January 6th. But to throw like a curveball at you, Trump was disqualified and Kamala wasn't. But if you held a projectile throwing device to his head,
My bad.
he would have voted for Trump. Now, I don't know how you square that circle. I haven't, but that's where Hutch comes in. Hutch is gonna be able to crack the code.
It's not gonna work.
No, he's not gonna work. These people. Okay, look, there's a certain type of person. Okay, and I think it's one of the reasons why Ryan kind of
Just Carpet 563. Thank you for the membership. Appreciate you, bud.
he triggers so many people. But there's a lot. This is one reason why Adam triggers so many people from the Sitch and Adam show, right? Is that like
Ryan
I feel like
is 10,000 times smarter than Adam. Adam is deeply stupid and dishonest.
Sorry, let me see if I disagree with this.
Right? Is that like
Ryan
I feel like
is
there
10,000.
Me.
Yeah,
that's
Rogan,
right. Yeah.
Rogan is slowly de-radicalizing. Yeah, so he'll say stuff like, okay, I admit it, Trump is worse on free speech, and Trump is corrupt, and Trump is authoritarian, but, the Biden administration...
He said, so I saw a quote for him that was basically word for word what you're saying.
Yeah.
And where he went with it was, but look at what Kamala was going to do with like Twitter. It was like implying that she was going to do some mass censorship.
Again, these guys, look, I'm sorry. These guys, I feel like, again, when Vance is running for president or Don Jr.,
Oh,
whoever.
Jesus, I rewound too far. My back button is, I have like paint and glue from working on miniatures, and there's something that's stuck on my back button. Stop being perverted. And it's just totally fucking up my back button, so it rewinds too far.
The whole time, and I'll.
Of the fake electors plot in January 6th. But to throw like a curveball at you, Trump was disqualified and Kamala wasn't. But if you held a projectile throwing device to his head,
My bad.
he would have voted for Trump. Now, I don't know how you square that circle. I haven't, but that's where Hutch comes in. Hutch is gonna be able to crack the code.
It's not gonna work.
No, he's not gonna work. These people. Okay, look, there's this
Tomfoolery. Yeah, they're being sarcastic. Yes, we know. We know it's a joke. We don't like the underlying sentiment behind the joke. You might have come in late. Imagine if I'm being accused of being a crypto fascist, and I'm hanging out with Curtis Yarvin, Nicholas Fuentes, Alex Jones, Elijah Schaefer, and I keep saying, like, I'm a liberal, guys. I'm a liberal. I value democracy more than I value white identity or Christian nationalism. I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal. But then I keep, like, whenever they're like, actually, freedom of association is a really important idea. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with people creating like white enclaves, which, by the way, I don't give a shit if you create a white enclave. I really don't care. Fuck off to the forests of Missouri and go do your own thing. Leave the rest of us alone. Right. But let's say I'm like, you know what? I think that's right. You know, like just with the crime in the inner city, you know, the crime is so bad that I just, you know, I think that freedom of association is the one thing that can save us from the blight of urban crime. But I'm a liberal and I have a black friend. Like, imagine if I was doing that and then people are like, hey, bro, you're kind of hanging out with like fascists and you're doing like apologia for fascism and white nationalism and dissident right-wing ideas. And then I'm like, ha, 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 the joke's on you. I'm going to show up with the Nazi Germany flag, the Franco flag, and the Kekistan flag. And if you get triggered, you don't understand that I'm being sarcastic. Ha, 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 ha. Like, you're obviously going to call out the bullshit, right? 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 We understand this, right?
So there's a certain type of person, okay? And I think it's one of the reasons why Ryan he triggers so many people. But there's a lot, you know, this is one reason why Adam triggers so many people from the Sitch and Adam show, right? Is that like
Ryan
I feel like
is
there
10,000 times smarter than Adam. Adam is deeply stupid and dishonest.
The only thing I wanted to know was if they were talking about Adam Friended. That's the only thing I wanted to know. I wish I could have rewound 5 seconds and figured it out, but I wasn't paying attention, so I missed it again.
See, this is why you got blocked and not me, Josiah.
I did get blocked.
I didn't say it. He said it.
No,
I stand 100% 10 toes down on business. Just a deeply, profoundly stupid person.
LB, you need to hear me. I'm a democratic socialist. You still think that means I'm a tanky, but whatever. No, I think that you want what tankies want, but you want to do it via democracy. So you don't think that you're authoritarian. However, that doesn't make you a tanky. In my opinion, it makes you a useful idiots for tankies. Okay? Just so we understand. You're not a tanky. In my opinion, you are a useful idiot for tankies.
I think there's a type of person where it's like, and it's been criticized before, but there's this type of like, look, I'm not like one of these partisan brained idiots over here. I like to call it right down the middle, you know, balls and strikes, right? Just like it is.
Okay, old school. I'm going to save you some time because you're a fucking idiot and I hate talking to you. Bye. There you go. Old school has been consistently one of the rudest, fucking shitty, annoying reply guys I've ever had the displeasure of fucking working with. And I try to tolerate people. If they're like, if they're contending the ideas, then I don't really care. But if you're just gonna be like rude, abrasive, nasty, and shitty, eventually I just want to enjoy my time streaming. So like, if you want to have a contention over the ideas like, I'm a statistician, you moron. I know exactly how to read the bad stats from the Lancet. Dude, you could say that in a way less dickish way. You could say like, hey, Connor, I actually do have like a severe disagreement with what the Lancet says. Here's how. And then you could explain how in like a sane tone of voice. Whereas if you're just like a rude, abrasive, nasty, like troll is the word. But if you're just this like slime and pus covered nasty reply guy, I might tolerate you for a bit because at least you're like contending with the ideas. But I'm going to save you the psychic damage of having to watch my shit. And I'm going to save me the psychic damage of having to read your shit. So old school, fuck off to a different community. There, I just saved you hours of your life. You're welcome. eDreamcast says you can't simply de-radicalize young people that don't find the moderate white fence aesthetic interesting. I agree, eDreamcast. That's a problem that we need to talk about. Matter of fact, fuck it. You inspired me. I need to talk about it now. My criticism of Stephen right now is that he's the prince of liberalism. Okay, Stephen Bennell II is the prince of liberalism. And I think that he's actually emblematic of the degenerate nature of liberalism, where since technically liberalism allows you to do whatever you want, if you don't have a socially conservative ideology, if you don't have a Jordan Peterson mythos, if you don't have the religion of your parents, then effectively like you can do hard drugs and bang an endless amount of Instagram girls and accumulate an endless amount of wealth. And as long as you pay your taxes, nobody should really give a shit or criticize you. I think that in a lot of ways, Stephen is emblematic of the endpoint of liberal capitalism. And as such, one of my most frustrating moments in our recent conversations, which we'll probably discuss in the future, is that I think that turning around and telling hundreds of thousands or millions of young men and women and gays and trans people that actually capitalism isn't that bad, that you actually do have all the wealth and opportunity that your parents had. And realistically, you just need to work your shitty $10 an hour retail job and stop being such a pussy. I don't think that's going to be a message that resonates with voters. And I feel like that's effectively what he said in our conversation. So we need to think about that. We need to think about, like, if liberalism and capitalism and mixed economy capitalism are so fucking good, how do we make the lives of young people and middle-aged people actually good so they're not radical freaks trying to burn down the system? I don't have a full answer to that question right now. I'm still grokking it. I'm still thinking about it.
And it's just ultimately infuriating because it's the equivalent of somebody coming into a completely final discussion like climate change or something like that and be like, I'm not like one of these crazy eco-terrorists that believes in climate change, and I'm also not like one of these coal executives that denies it exists. There's some like middle ground here where
true, Econo Boy, true,
both sides are equally right. But that's stupid. That's idiotic. There's just some issues where some people are right and wrong, right? So that triggers the fuck.
No, that's me. That's literally me. He's just describing me.
Anyway,
they straddle a centrist position and then kind of go where the wind blows. Like Andrew Schultz recently has been more heavy-handed in his criticisms of Trump. He posted about how you don't break your word breaks you, regarding a story that Trump is backing off of the IVF stuff.
Yeah.
And so Theo Vaughn is in this. Larry
Hutchinson, a big supporter of the channel, says, this episode of Lib Learn has shown me that Destiny Pisco Bridge is nuked to all hell. Yeah, dude, they can fight each other on topics, which, by the way, is good for all of us because that means that they're going to create good content in the future, but they are probably not going to be friends, right? I think Pisco is too obstinate for that, and I think Steven probably did the maximum he will ever do, whilst, where he says, like, hey, just because I'm criticizing you guys doesn't mean that I don't love you, and I still love you, buddy. And then Pisco's just like, yeah, cool, thanks, bye, and then hung up. I think that was the last time that Destiny's going to try to rebuild the bridge. So if Pisco has little brother syndrome and Steven, that was the last time Steven's going to try to build the bridge, yeah, I think it's over. I think it's Jover.
Similar. So, like, I think a lot of people thought that the MAGA momentum was going to carry on for much longer and Cenk, Cenk and Anna, I think fit in this category. And the reality is that Trump's, I don't know if you guys have seen Trump's approval ratings in the aggregate, but he has fucking tanked.
I saw YouGov poll.
Awesome.
I had him at 38 today, I think is what I saw. But that was just one poll.
Well, I mean, Gallup had him at 37, but among independents and Democrats, he's just cratering. And so now they feel like, I'm just assuming because it's kind of grifty, but they feel like.
Briss Benedict. The answer that I have for you is if you ask me the same question 7 times, I'm eventually going to ban you. What answer do you have to this whole thing being silly and you're wasting valuable time days looking for traders? Briss Benedict. Let me introduce you to something. You are clearly fucking new. Sorry for using so much profanity. Eleanor Roosevelt. What is it? Great minds quote. Let me show you something. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Okay? There are 180 people in my chat right now. We are all small minds. No offense to everybody in chat. I parasocially love you. But what we're doing is we're watching average and great minds who are talking about events and ideas. The event is that liberals and leftists are currently fighting for the soul of the Democratic Party. The idea is whether or not socialism is a good thing and whether or not it should be a part of the party platform. And the people are, I am currently, and Stephen Bennell II, the most popular streamer for liberals on the internet, are currently in a fight with Pisco, a top 5 company lawyer. I don't know, they call him the big 5 in the industry. I have no fucking idea what it means. But he's a very smart guy. And Econo Boy, who is, despite being annoying as shit and having the aura of a Care Bear, is a wildly intelligent person. So we are nesting large ideas and relevant events into the drama of people so I can have 180 people watching me. If I just wanted to talk about socialism and expand on the historical relevance of socialism for 2 hours, I would have 50 fucking viewers. Okay? So I know how to do this job better than you. It's the whole point is to entertain people so they give me super chats so I can make a 6-figure income, so I can take 10% of my 6-figure income and channel it into good in the real world. So you saying, hey, Connor, why don't you just talk about socialism to 50 live viewers is stupid as fuck. And if you want to do my job, then go do it yourself. Go start up your own stream, get your own webcam, get your own microphone, and just start talking about random political ideas for hours on end to a fucking audience of less than 100 people. And I wish you luck with that endeavor. But if after this point, it is currently what's the time on deck? Time on deck is 10:45 a.m. If you say after 10:45 a.m., wow, this is stupid, inane drama, I can't believe we're wasting our time on this, I'm going to ban you from my fucking chat. How about that? You're fucking new. I know what I'm doing. Shut the fuck up. How about that shit?
Like they need to be more openly critical of him, but they have cover to do it now because he's kind of like no longer cool, especially after all this Epstein stuff.
That's what I'm saying. I think these guys realize that in part their fucking radical fucking audience is actually kind of upset with Trump, and they also realize that look at the
if they totally move off the drama, I might wrap it up, but let's see if they bounce back into it another time.
end of the day, this Trump train is slowing down, right? Like we're it's not that we're near the end, but you can definitely see the end of the tunnel on the Trump train with his second term coming to an end. He's like 85 years old. You know, we know we can't ride this and milk this forever. So you're starting to see the cracks of the loyalty of, oh, you know, actually I was always really critical. It's going to be completely revisionist. Okay. And so I'm just saying to the audience and to everyone out there, we can't let them get away with it. You endorsed Trump 3 times. You voted for him probably 2 or 3 times. You spread his propaganda on his show fucking dozens and dozens and dozens and
Okay, yeah, but if you're moving the country forward, then going back and being like, well, you were previously a Trump supporter, that's just not going to hit 4 years from now. Because the Trump legacy will live on, but Trump himself will no longer be in power. He'll probably be a power broker. The Trump brand and the MAGA brand are going to be a power broker in the Republican Party going forward. However, like trying to hold people to account for their votes from 5 years ago, that's not going to hit in 3 or 4 years. I think that's a waste of time. Now, you can criticize the shit out of them for sweeping for a pedophile and killing a bunch of Africans. That's fine. And I'm probably going to be doing that. However, you bear in mind, these people are going to be relevant and the stink of Trump is not going to stick.
thousands and thousands of times. And it's just important that people like this just can't be, you know, I don't think they can be rehabilitated in my mind outside of the long term.
They shouldn't be part of our coalition, okay?
Pisco,
they should not be part of our coalition.
Pisco was confronted with a bit of this with his recent Tim Pool thing, which I think you were a total mismatch for that, by the way. There was, you understand, it was 4 trolls and then you, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. They did the trolling thing because they did the trolling thing.
Sorry, this is still interesting to me, so I'm going to keep it going. But the Pisco versus 4 trolls was totally fine. We only watched like the first like 30 or 40 minutes of it. But realistically, Pisco grilled them on the fact that Donald Trump is currently sweeping for pedophiles / is a pedophile himself. And they had no answer besides jokes. LB says, no, democratic socialists are talking about not becoming Mao's China. So constantly talking about it is disingenuous. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. I do. Starhawks for $5 says, Connor, the only way that emancipation definition of socialism can work is through the prosperity provided by a capitalist state. It isn't socialism. Yeah, but ironically enough, Marx says that, Starhawks. Marx says that you have to create the wealth of a capitalist society in order to institute a socialist society. So that's not contradictory. So, sorry. eDreamcast says, make traditional values accessible and palatable to an intersectional public. Yeah, I'm with you on that, but I don't think that's going to help people who are making $10 an hour at the local Walmart. I mean, we can talk about virtue and eudaimonia, good living, and how eudaimonia is not connected necessarily to material wealth, I'm perfectly fine with doing that. But I think we're going to catch a subset of the lost men because I don't have a Bugatti and I'm not sex trafficking women to Romania. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think an easy way, regardless of whether or not like you're a good person, an easy way to get attention to yourself for an internet career is to sex traffic women to Romania and drive a Bugatti.
Obviously, because they knew they could not possibly match him in the debate, so they do what a lot of other right-wing shitheads do. Like, because Tim Pool, when he wants to, he gets
if you guys like, so for instance, if you guys wanted to do this term, I would be okay with this. Like, let's say that I have the instantaneous ability to hook words to meaning. Then I'm okay with socialism being referred to as like social democracy. And then you do the follow-up questions where you ask socialists, do you mean social democracy, like capitalism with a welfare state? Or do you mean Marxism, where you want to abolish private property? I'm okay with using it that way and then making that subset differentiation because I don't think that that's a problem. And then I'm also okay with using communist as exclusively a term used for Marxists. I'm okay with that. That would be an okay use. But the truth is that we need to differentiate these terms because we're talking about 20 different economic and political philosophies.
really fucking serious, humorless as fuck. Like, look at how he reacted to, I think it was his first debate with Luke Beasley. He just went ape shit for no reason. Like it's dead
shifty.
serious.
He's shifty. He does the whole like, oh, I'm just trolling just to get out of bad arguments, and then he tries to make it serious sometimes. But basically, the times where they did let the troll mask down a little bit.
Mythos for $5. I got to say, I would expect my friends to put more time into understanding my argument and concern, not mocking the concern and calling me clueless. Yeah, but you know, this is the internet. We banter.
I'm thinking specifically of Alex Stein and Tim Pool. There were a couple moments where they kind of like let that drop and engaged you seriously. Gavin and the other guy were just obviously trolling the whole time. But
although Gavin
I don't think Gavin was.
Gavin did say that like no cops were attacked on January 6th, and then he said, "Okay, you got us. You got us."
Lisa Simpson Liberal says, "What's a good Nazi policy? Didn't Hitler support the ethical treatment of animals? Hitler ethical treatment of animals. There was widespread support for animal welfare in Nazi Germany. Among the country's leadership, Adolf Hitler and his top officials took a variety of measures to ensure animals were protected. Several Nazis were environmentalists, and species protection and animal welfare were significant issues in the Nazi regime. Heinrich Himmler made an effort to ban the hunting of animals, which is cringe. Hermann Göring was a professional animal lover and conservationist who threatened to commit Germans who violated Nazi animal welfare laws to concentration camps. In his private diaries, Nazi propaganda minister Goebbels described Hitler as a vegetarian who was contemptuous of Judaism and Christianity for the ethical distinction they drew between the value of humans and values of animals. Goebbels also mentions that Hitler planned to discourage slaughterhouses in the German Reich following the conclusion of World War II. The Nazi government made a law against animal testing, but in practice, animal testing was permitted and even encouraged in Nazi Germany. The current animal welfare laws in Germany were introduced by the Nazis. So while killing Jews and Roma and gays and political dissidents in the millions, they were environmental conservationists, and they wanted to make more ethical slaughterhouses. So I would view that as the Nazis having potentially a good policy somewhere in there. They probably like clean drinking water. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Clutch for $20 says, Destiny needs to understand that Bernie and AOC could be hiding their power level. Agreed. Much like Hassan does. Agreed. We don't know if they are more moderate now or bad faith. Agreed. Your point about Bernie simping for the USSR was spot on. Well, thank you for the donation, King. I do appreciate it.
That's on the...
When did Econo Boy say anything like what you're talking about, Connor? When he probably sweeps for Cuba. I almost guarantee you he does. I guarantee you that he talks about Noam Chomsky in glowing terms. Noam Chomsky apologizes for Pol Pot. He also apologizes for Serbia. Then what else? He simps for AOC. He simps for Bernie. Bernie in turn simped for the Soviet Union. And then not just that, but he himself wants to abolish private property at the end of the day. He wants to do it incrementally. As far as I understand, we could have a conversation about it. I don't give a shit. But as far as I understand, the way that he wants to do it is he wants to adopt the Nordic model. So boom, copy paste the Nordic model onto the United States. Then what he wants to do is he wants to have the government start buying majority stakes in private companies that are successful. Then he wants to take the wealth generated from those majority stakes in the companies in order to further reinforce the welfare state, but ultimately have the people own the means of production with the goal of eventually abolishing private property. I'm pretty sure that he said that explicitly. So he wants to do it incrementally and through the economy. That doesn't mean that you can't have an authoritarian, Orwellian nightmare fucking state, especially when the government owns majority stakes in every major industry.
On the Epstein stuff.
No, but they were forced to take a position of, yeah, it's possible that Donald Trump like raped children, but
who cares?
You know, he's our guy. Like that.
True. Fucking Pisco owned in that segment of the debate.
That's the unfortunate position of being like a MAGA spokesperson right now. Is like, if you want to support him still, you have to take that position. None of them said, oh, there's no chance he's not involved. I feel like everybody that was serious on that.
Yeah, they were serious. They were just joking. They were just like, yeah, he might be a pedophile, but who gives a shit? Which is a crazy position, by the way. Mythos says, do you think a better way to put it is a way they can't deflect? Is there are two types of socialists, one that aren't allies in our fights and the ones that the first group disavow? No. I think just differentiate between Marxism and social democracy and then have people who are smart enough to fight Marxists. I think that's sufficient.
Stage we're saying like, yeah, he might be involved with the
and a bunch of Democrats had to fucking take L after L after L of like, oh yeah, like I get it, Biden's a slow old man and like we don't like that he's so slow, but we're still gonna support him. How could you do that? How could you support a guy that's just not 100% as youthful as he used to be just because you agree with him on certain policies?
Yeah, but Republicans have no shame. Even if you admit that, like, even if you call their daddy a fucking pedophile, half of them double and triple down. It's actually crazy.
Like, no, that's fucking stupid. You guys are supporting this fucking actual, like, civil liable fucking rapist in office. If
we wanted to be super charitable, let me construct a hypothetical, and I want to know what all.
Haterade says, what flags are these? Soviet Union, Cuba, North Korea.
All three of you have to say, okay?
All right. I'm in no mood for charitability, Hutch.
2028. The Dem primary comes along.
Okay.
The primary carries out. The nominee is locked in, and then 1 month before the election, you find out that they maybe were involved with child trafficking. However, hear me out. Yeah. However, you knew that by electing this person, it would lead to paid family leave and Medicare for all because the projected.
Do you vote for the pedophile? If it gets you social democracy. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Hutch. Thank you for this awesome hypothetical.
Congressional majorities would allow for something like that. And it's either that or Vance. What do you do?
I've got a perfect solution. So you support them, give them 2 weeks because that's all it takes to pass paid family leave and like sweeping progressive policy, according to Jen Huger on Jubilee. Then you impeach and remove that person from office.
That's the exact right answer. Good for you.
Ooh. Sorry, did he say you vote for the pedophile, but then you impeach and remove him? Nice. I didn't even think about that. They Uno reversed me. I got owned in the marketplace of ideas by Josiah. That is dope.
You, Josiah, you nailed it on that one. Like the only like moral position that Republicans should have right now is we
Ooh, I just got fucking owned. Nice.
Should fucking impeach this guy, but we'll never do that.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I wouldn't support him personally. I feel like I don't know. Assuming there's no way to get him off the ticket, I would say I'd probably vote for a third party or something in that wild and.
Yeah. Imagine if I was a libertarian white nationalist. I was like, oh, well, like I want white people to only live with white people, but I want to do it in a peaceful way. Okay. You could still say this is bad, right? It's bad.
Well, the premise is so absurd, right, Econo Boy, because obviously that person would be the Republican nominee and not the Democratic nominee. So
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a fair point.
If I could give a little feedback on the Destiny debate, the Destiny Connor debate that you guys had.
Yes, please do, Hutch. Please give us content.
I think that Wick did a bad job of he gave you guys a bad prompt.
True.
Because I think
Well, actually, hold on. No, I don't agree that the prompt was bad. I think that Wick over moderated me. So somebody did the times on how many people spoke. Pisco and Destiny were both at 55 minutes. Econo Boy was at 35 minutes, and I was at 25 minutes, and I got moderated the heaviest. And the reason why is because I would let Pisco and fucking Destiny talk for 10, 15 minutes, and then I would try to recenter the conversation around a real point, and then I would get moderated super heavily because my real point would start a new level of contention that started with yelling. So that's my criticism of Wick. I don't think the prompt was overly vague, but that's not a problem with the prompt. We are fighting over definitions within the current structure. Econo Boy does not, like I said, I'm going to pull up my fucking drawing because I drew it again. Econo Boy does this while we're having the conversation multiple times. He uses the Scandinavian model in social democracy as the emancipation of the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. So he says that people who advocate for this are actually socialists, but then he ignores the fact that I'm not criticizing social democracy. I'm criticizing fucking Marxists. So at any point, if he wanted to facilitate the conversation, Econo Boy could have said, hey, guys, listen, I have a definition that's going to work for everybody. There's 200 years of socialist thought. There's, dozens of different variations. And effectively what it means is the emancipation of the working class from the oppressions of capitalism, which in my opinion includes social democracy. However, I do understand that you guys are criticizing Marxists because they have a bad history of killing shitloads of people in the 20th century. So while I agree with the outcomes of Marxism, I think we can differentiate between Scandinavians, social democrats, and Marxists, and that would be more useful for this conversation. Do you agree with this definition? He could have done that at any time, but he didn't because he benefits from the confusion of these two definitions.
Like, should we be courting the far left is just way too vague in general. And I think you guys were making reasonable points that we need to assign people on a spectrum. And I think where Destiny, I think his thinking is a bit shallow on this issue is he just throws everybody in the, I watched a clip of him saying Dem socks and sock Dems and commies and socialists are all the same. And it's just,
Kiko says, clip it, Connor said he's a liberal. Yeah, the United States is a liberal and libertarian project. I believe in maximal human freedom in line with the Constitution of the United States. Do you know what I also think? Do you know what I also agree with? Guns, American militarism, the Monroe Doctrine, killing the fuck out of commies, killing the fuck out of fascists. If you guys want to be militant libs, if you want to be lib hawks, then you're effectively neoconservatives, by the way. Liberal hawks are neoconservatives who thought that the left had lost its fucking mind during the 60s and 70s, and they jumped into the Republican Party. I've been using the term neoconservatism and explaining it probably for 6 months. And I also agree with Edmund Burke like a motherfucker. So if you guys want to take the spirit of 2018 Jordan Peterson and his Jungian and mythological analysis, and then you just want to inject that into your soul, and then you want to grab a fucking minigun and murder communists the world over, then yeah, that's the liberal that I am. Okay? Like a militant liberal conservatarian. All right? So if that's your liberalism, cool, we can be on the same team. But if you want to ban guns, you can go fuck yourself. If you want America to be isolationist, you can go fuck yourself. If you think communists and socialists are your friends, you can go fuck yourself. If you think that white men need to sit down and shut up because it's time for a disabled black Muslim woman to talk, you can shut the fuck up. Right? Right? We're on the same page? Cool. Let's do it.
It's not true. And then I feel like you guys got bogged down for an hour trying to decide is NHS.
Well, you just can't hold him to any position because anytime he says that, so for example,
Fuck you, Pisco. I gave you the definition multiple times.
All communists are the same, socialism the same. He's like, oh, I didn't really mean that. Or when he says,
I meant it.
for example, Mamdani is a socialist. Oh, I didn't really mean that. So there's no consistent application of the term socialism here or socialist, and it certainly doesn't track common usage of the term.
I gave you multiple definitions, and if you wanted to do a point of clarification, you could have, you piece of shit.
To be fair, Destiny eventually, he did, well, I guess not to be fair, like just like a description of the conversation, Destiny did eventually narrow his criticism to socialists in the media, and he did
People
eventually
who use
agree.
the socialist term, the label, socialist label in the media.
Well, in the media, I guess so. And he also did admit that you should probably judge socialists broadly that use the label more so by who they vote for than by basically socialist media figures.
Lisa Simpson, liberal. What's a tanky again? It's an authoritarian communist who does apology. Like, so for me, tanky is just authoritarian communist. I don't even care if you do apologia, but typically it's related for apologia of the Soviet Union and apologia of Maoist China. If you'll remember, one of the most iconic photos coming out of China in authoritarianism is the gentleman with groceries standing in front of a tank. And then also Eastern European pro-capitalist reforms were crushed by Soviet aggression. So it's an apologia for authoritarian socialism.
Which I think are two pretty big.
But then the teeth goes away of the prescription to the extent that there's.
I agree. Yeah.
The teeth goes away and basically like shit on Hassan. But even then, it's like it's okay if you go on Hassan's show. At least.
Yeah. Oh, Pisco, you fucking. I'm trying not to like cry or have a stroke. I'm gonna go full screen for this. I want you to listen to me. I want Pisco and his ilk to listen to me. I don't give a fuck if you go on Hassan's show. Nobody with a fucking pulse and an IQ above 80 gives a fuck if you go on Hassan's show. If he starts sweeping for the Houthis, you call him out. If he starts saying ML propaganda, you call him out and you fight him on it. And you're not so ignorant as to be, I called him this in the debate. You're not so ignorant of socialism and communism that you're a useful cocksleeve for like authoritarian socialists. That's the whole point. Nobody cares if I go on Tim Pool. Nobody on the right, nobody in the center cares if I go on Tim Pool. Nobody cares if I talk to Nick Fuentes. Nobody cares about if I talk to Keith Woods. Nobody cares if I talk to Cultured Thug. Nobody cares if I talk to Elijah Schaffer. What they care about is that I'm not a useful cocksleeve for fascists. It's actually a very easy point that I've made a dozen times now. If I was a useful cocksleeve for fascists, I would expect my audience and my friends to give me shit for it. If you are a useful cocksleeve for authoritarian socialists and Marxist-Leninists and revolutionary communists, I'm going to give you shit for it. Stop playing dumb. I swear to God, Pisco is playing dumb. It's been explained a dozen times. It's not hard. One of his parts, one of Pisco's counter arguments about all the criticisms he's received is that the criticism is not that crazy. No shit. So stop sweeping and defending against the criticism. Just go, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should play footsie with far lefties a little bit less, and maybe I'll be more critical and less ignorant. I'm going to dedicate some of my time in order to study this philosophy and the history of this philosophy. That way, people can't dog whistle right in front of me. This isn't even a dog whistle, by the way. This is a fucking air horn. I understand it's sarcastic. Before any of you fucking twats in my comments say it's sarcastic. You guys are gonna fucking piss me off. All right, so I need to not get pissed off, but I need to explain what pisses me off. The Soviet Union, under Stalin, killed tens of millions of people, including Ukrainians, and Ukrainian Anna is pissed off about that fact. I am sympathetic to Ukrainian Anna because she has recently, not only is her country currently being invaded, not only is she in the city of Kharkiv, where they constantly hit it with drone attacks, but she has watched footage within the past couple of years where Russians who they valorize the Soviet Union. They have forced Ukrainian prisoners of war to sing the Soviet national anthem. And when the Russian soldiers got bored, they executed the Ukrainians who were singing the Soviet national anthem. So I would be because I actually have some level of empathy. I'm not a fucking lizard person. When Ukrainian Anna is disgusted and repulsed by socialism, I'm sympathetic to that. Then when it comes to Cuba, you could argue, is dispossessed because of the American blockade, not because of socialism. However, they got nukes from the Soviet Union, and I'm pretty sure Fidel Castro and Che Guevara begged the Soviet Union to nuke the United States because it was the heart of capitalism. So right behind Econo Boy, we have this murderous dog shit fucking piece of shit, might as well be Nazi fucking ideology. Then we have the country that was begging to nuke us. Then we have North Korea, which we fucked over. I'm not going to deny that we fucked over North Korea by bombing 25% of their population out of existence. We fucked over North Korea. But North Korea is a modern slave state with tens of millions of people kept in bondage. So you can say this is funny, it's sarcastic, it's ironic. The joke is that he is simping for these authoritarian, shitty, murderous regimes. I get the joke. It's just not funny to me. Do we understand each other? Okay.
At least as I have sussed out further and further. And so, again, I just want to stress, there is no prescription other than feels. And if you can think
you fuck Pisco, are you fucking lying? Do we need to have another 2-hour struggle session? The prescription is stop being a useful cock sleeve for far lefties. That's the prescription. I would like you to say that back because I've said it to your face now half a dozen times and you're pretending that my prescription doesn't exist. I've told you my prescription. Stop lying.
That isn't just generic to like be like meaner to them, be meaner to them. There was someone
not just meaner, also be less ignorant.
Who said this in one of my VCs. They were like, the problem was you didn't confront the vanguard on communism. Well, the thing is, we didn't have a conversation about communism.
Sure.
We had a conversation about the debate that Hutch brought up, which was about like the Manchin point about Biden and Biden's agenda. And if it were the case that the problem was not confronting the vanguard on their communism or socialism, then that prescription would apply to Hutch with equal force, because Hutch obviously didn't bring up a communism issue because
yeah, but he fought them on their fucking pointless anti-political nonsense.
Who the fuck wants to have every conversation be about communism, Marxism, Leninism? And so that isn't actually why people are mad. People are mad for things they don't even know why they're mad. They actually can't distill it. Yeah.
Speaking of not every conversation.
Paul asks, well, he's not asking, he's stating, is there a substantive difference between authoritarian communists and tankies? No. I use those terms interchangeably. Vastly Blank says, problem is mainstream conservatives do all that stuff in secret and bash Steven for it. Yeah, sure. But that's conservative hypocrisy is obvious.
Being about communism or socialism, Josiah, you said you weren't going to let the whole show be about this. What's the actual news of the day, Josiah?
Let's do this. You mentioned Trump's poll, and I brought this up because the YouGov UMass poll I found really interesting that just dropped.
Sorry, Larry Hutch. I'm going to read Larry Hutch Hutchinson. Is, grassroots hegemon Larry Hutch Hutchinson. Gen X. Dr. Zayas, I'm always going to stop and read their stuff because they're very generous to the channel. So Larry Hutch Hutchinson says, I think you should have brought up a Tea Party in the debate to show how allowing the crazy in the party can change the base, because now the Tea Party is the MAGA party. Yeah. I've said this multiple times. I think it's a good analog. Donald Trump was a joke in 2015. 60% of the party voted for moderates against Donald Trump. Then he got into the presidency. Then he used the bully pulpit in order to cultivate a cult, to the point that Republican is now synonymous with MAGA, and MAGA is synonymous with the cult of Trump. We thought it was a joke, and we got owned in a decade. So while, do I think Hassan Piker is competent enough to be the next Donald Trump? Absolutely not. But do I want to live in a world where I'm caught unawares because useful cock sleeves? No offense, Pisco, you've ignored everything I've said, so I'm not trying to be too big of a dick, but realistically, you've ignored everything I said, so I'm going to be uncharitable. Useful cock sleeves for tanky dipshits, and then people who want tanky dipshit stuff, but they want to do it in a nice way, and then liberals and progressives who are suckered in because this is basically a Care Bear in human form. Yeah, you better believe I'm gonna have something to say about it.
I just saw it today, and what was interesting about it is some of the questions that I've not seen asked before since Trump was reelected. So, like one, for example, Trump assessment. Donald Trump has been in office for 7 months. During this time, please indicate how X you believe Trump has been. Transparent, very 23, corrupt 45, competent 31, dishonest 49. So like if you like
these are devastating crosstabs here.
Brutal. They're fucking brutal, right? I mean, so if you aggregate this stuff, dishonest comes in first, then corrupt.
Rob says 180 people, 40 likes. The fuck? Yeah, you guys have been nice with the generous with the donos, but I need to point out, like the stream, share it with your friends. If you enjoy the commentary, come back to Valor Media Network tomorrow. VALOR Media Common Spelling, Network Common Spelling. We stream Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Tuesdays, I'm live on Counterpoints. The rest of the week, I'm live on Valor Media Network. If you think I'm correct, or if you enjoy the show, do a super chat or a donation or a membership or whatever. Parasocial love to you and yours. Let's continue with the content.
Then strong, then competent, and then transparent at the bottom. And then there was one about, they didn't aggregate it though. I saw somewhere, but basically like if you could have the election over.
Alex C says, thoughts on Pinochet? Well, allegedly he only killed 3,000 communists by throwing them out of helicopters. So, while throwing people out of helicopters for thought crimes is bad, am I going to cry over it when I have fucking Econo Boy sitting in front of the Soviet Union flag, the Cuban flag, and the North Korean flag? No, I'm not going to cry about it.
Again. Right there. Yeah, that Kamala Harris. They'd vote for Kamala Harris.
Waifu Lover says, oh my God, yap. Shut the fuck up. I don't even know if you mean it the way that I mean it. But if you're saying that I'm yapping on my stream, yeah, this is my stream. If you want to go watch somebody else yap, go watch their stream. Easy solution.
Harris. A plurality would vote for Kamala Harris. So this is the first
That's
poll
not
that
super
I've
encouraging.
seen.
I'm just gonna say it's not.
I think it just goes to bread and butter issues, man. Like he's fucking with people's wallets right now.
Well, I understand, but what I love about that is because that question I have seen over the past several months, not the corrupt like the personality traits, but the question of if you could had a mulligan over it, and Trump was still clearing that as of like 6 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, and now this is the first one where I've seen where a decisive plurality is like, fuck no, I'd vote.
It's 4
Kamala
points,
Harris.
Uzziah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that decisive. I think it's discouraging.
It's 7
it's
points
discouraging
actually.
for me.
It's
It is.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
It
What
was,
was
it was 35 to 42 Kamala
never mind.
Harris.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of unaffiliateds, and people are lying about that they would vote for a third party because they always do. I mean,
All right, I think they're moving into hard politics, so we're going to wrap up the segment. So what I would say is Pisco is being obtuse, in my opinion. I've already described my position with him half a dozen times. Don't be ignorant. Don't be a useful cocksleeve for socialists and communists. Don't let them play you for a fool. When they say some crazy shit or a dog whistle, call them out on their crazy shit or a dog whistle. I understand the Econo Boy, Ecomi Boy meme. I understand the joke. I understand the sarcasm. I understand it. I want my audience to understand that I understand it. I get it. I don't think it's that funny, specifically because of the nature of the regimes that he has flags behind him of. So yeah, so I think that even as a joke, that helps normalize shit. As an example, if I was accused of being a crypto Nazi because I kept hanging out and glazing Elijah Schaefer, Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, name some Keith Woods, Cultured Thug. If I kept glazing dissident right-wing figures, then people are like, oh, you're a crypto fascist. And I was like, lol, no, I'm not. Go fuck yourself. I'm a liberal. And, I love democracy. Democracy is more important to me than, white nationalism or fascism or Christian nationalism. And then I showed up with a fucking Kekistani flag, a Nazi flag, and the flag of Franco's Spain. I would expect people to be like, ugh, what? What? Why'd you do that? So I parasocially love you guys. Thank you for all the donations. Thanks for hanging out through the afternoon. Go enjoy your other favorite streamers. I parasocially love you. I hope you have a beautiful day. And bye for now.